We've got a great session up next. We're going to shift gears a little bit. Over the past few sessions, we talked more about the app ecosystem, software, and of course, the investment ecosystem. However, now we're going to talk more about hardware side. So the next panel is called "The Future of Mobile is the Future of Everything." Okay, and so now I'd like to welcome all of our speakers to the stage. Please give them all a round of applause as I welcome them. First off, we have Lin Bin, the president of Xiaomi. We have Phil Carmack, Senior VP of NVIDIA. We have David Strelo, VP of Marketing from Huawei Technologies. And Mike Bailey, Senior Director at Qualcomm Labs. Thank you so much for being with us. Please give them a hand. And lastly, we have the moderator, not to be forgotten, Jonathan Goldberg, VP of Deutsche Bank. Sorry about that, Jay.
That's all right. Hi, good morning. Thank you for joining us. We won't be rapping, but maybe we'll do a round of karaoke at the end. So I'm Jay Goldberg. I'm a financial analyst. I cover the mobile and data networking sectors. I'm going to ask my panelists to quickly just introduce themselves, say a thing or two about yourself, and tell us what kind of phone you're carrying. So Bin, why don't we start with you, and we'll work this way.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bin Lin. I'm the co-founder and president of Xiaomi. You guys just heard the introduction from our chairman and CEO, Lei Jun. So 3 years ago, Lei Jun and I started Xiaomi together. Before Xiaomi, I was with Google. I was the director at Google China, working on a bunch of Google mobile maps and Android apps development for the China market. And before my Google life, I worked at Microsoft for 11 years. Starting with my career as an engineer up in Seattle, Redmond. And then back to China and founded the R&D Center for Microsoft in China. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Phil Carmack. I'm the Senior Vice President of Mobile Business Unit at NVIDIA and the founder of Tegra and the whole Tegra product line. My experience throughout my career has been in computing and graphics, and so super thrilled to be part of the mobile revolution and to be making these computers we call smartphones, of which there's now 1 billion installed. Of course, the one I'm carrying is a Tegra quad-core HTC phone. Thank you.
I'm Dave Strelo. I'm the VP of Marketing for the digital home business line within Huawei. So what we do is globally, for operators that want to add pay video, IPTV, hybrid, over-the-top services to their product mix, we put them in that business. So I guess probably the main characteristic for me is that I spend about 80% of my time on the road, and it's all outside the U.S. There's just a tremendous amount of fascinating activity going on there. And I've been involved with video and IP since 1993.
My name is Mike Bailey, and I work in a division of Qualcomm called Qualcomm Labs, and it's an incubator for new businesses. We have the opportunity to take a technology and then productize it and commercialize it or take it to the market. I've had the opportunity to lead projects within the division, and currently I've run business development for a contextual awareness platform called Gimbal, G-I-M-B-A-L, and I'm happy to be here, and I carry a LG Spectrum.
Okay. I'm Jonathan Goldberg. I'm actually Managing Director of Think Equity. I left Deutsche Bank 2 weeks ago, started at Think right after that. Think went out of business on Tuesday, so anybody needs a CFO or a VP of strategy, come see me after the show. But topic today is the future of mobile, which we're going to cover in 30 minutes. So let me just ask the panel, I'm going to throw this out to you. Anybody have a very strong feeling of what really is mobile today? What really are the things that matter to people, consumers and users in mobile? What are really the key 2 or 3 features of what defines a mobile experience?
I would say that there's no question that texting is just still a beast. It's a beast. Whether it's natively or through an application, texting is still a huge use case. But I watch my teenage daughters, and it's the cycle is this. It is texting, check it, check your Instagram, check your Facebook notifications, check Twitter. And that cycle just goes over and over.
Okay, text, Facebook, Instagram.
Face, Twitter.
Okay, what else matters?
Go ahead. Yeah, I got a comment. I think the future of mobile is the same as the future of all forms of computing. It's expanding your awareness. And if you look at mobile computing as the fourth revolution in computing, starting with mainframes. Mainframes, you got inside the computer to use them, literally. I mean, you went inside this console that was inside the room. Fast forward all the way to PCs, which is the third revolution, where you could carry it and open it up, put it on your lap. The future is that the computer figures out where you are, not just you get to carry it with you, but it literally figures out where you are and what you're doing, and expands your capabilities because it's aware of what's going on around you and what's going on inside you. And I think it's essentially, sometimes we talk about reality augmentation. I think it's human augmentation.
Let's hold off on that because I want to know where we are today. We'll get to AR and
You said future.
No, we'll get to the future. What is it today?
I can share some data with the group. With the Xiaomi handset, we've sold up to 4 million and above. So interesting data, we met with a China mobile executive just a few weeks ago. He told us that Xiaomi handset users under the China mobile network are the most active users when it comes to data usage. Now in the state, we are moving to 4G. China mobile today, most of the people are still on the edge, which means the data rate is really slow. You're talking about 100K per second download speed, really, really slow. But even that, they bought the Xiaomi handsets, and most of the people are using it to browse Weibo. Not sure if you guys have used Weibo here. Also use Weixin, and of course some of them use Miliao, the MiTalk software that we developed. Almost all the online browsing services and also the socials and also map applications. A lot of these applications are connecting to the web, connecting to the internet. So these are heavily usage users that are using high-end smartphones like Xiaomi handsets and also Huawei handsets too. So they are very heavy data usage users and applications that ties with the data services.
Okay, David, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think for me, and I'll take more of a business perspective and a global perspective, that I think the main thing mobile has done or is today is that if I look globally, if I look at the explosive growth of mobile worldwide in the last 10 years, that mobile is really the thing that's eaten everything else. I mean, really from a genuine point of view, from seeing América Móvil eat Telmex, which was its parents, to all the consolidation where you have now the 20 top operators, which are a combination of fixed and mobile and satellite and cable all together, having more than 4.3 billion subscribers among just 20 companies. So there's this tremendous economic growth, and it's driving a huge amount of innovation right now. But it literally has eaten pretty much everything around it, from supply chain to services.
Okay, so let me try and sort of sum all that up. We have clearly a very clear strain of communication systems, whether it's Instagram and texting to Weixin, Weibo. There's a common vein in all that. We have the sense of growing data usage and growing computer power, and then all the economic benefits that have come so far, right? We're at the point now, I think GSMA said 6 billion global wireless subscriptions. I think that came out last week. So pretty much everybody above the age of 3 on the planet has a mobile connection, right? That's where we are today. Where are we going now? What's going to happen in 5 years, right? Today, project out 5 years from today, what is a mobile device? Bing?
I can go first. So we believe, and that's what Legend talked about, that smartphone is going to grow like PCs. When it comes to computing powers, when it comes to all the functionalities, that's going to happen. And NVIDIA, Qualcomm's, they're building great technologies, like in the Me Too handsets. It's bundled with the 8064 Fusion 3 chips, and I'm doing a little bit of commercial for you, Mike, and a powerful GPU that's as powerful as an Xbox console. And I'm sure NVIDIA is really powerful on this too. So imagine all the game consoles that are able to actually play on your smartphone. I'm sure it's happening, and it will happen. You accelerate. Smartphone, we have already replaced a lot of the goods that we use every day. Like I'm not sure if anybody are still carrying a watch. I don't carry a watch.
Anybody carrying a watch?
Well,
so
there's quite a few. Well, maybe less than 10%.
5 people in the audience carrying a watch.
Cool. So I don't carry a watch because I have a watch with me all the time. Now imagine with all the image sensors, and camera features being built into the next generation smartphones. I'm not sure if any of you will be carrying a credit card-like style camera. DSLR may be different, right? But the small camera. This is going to replace camera and maybe navigations, the next thing, right? With the powers, with the map data coming down the pipe, with the 4Gs coming along. So the next 5 years is actually going to be huge for mobile. Anything that you're going to bring with you, mobile phones. And anything that you're going to use with your mobile phones, getting information and access, is mobile phone. The computing power, the graphics power, the sensors and all the functionalities that can build into the handsets is amazing.
I think that the next 5 years is about sensor fusion. It's really making sense or meaningful sense of the location, the speed, the user interests, the motion state. Is the user walking, driving, shopping, golfing, things like that? Making sense of that and then putting in meaningful use cases around those. I saw that over the next 3 years, we're going to hit 25 billion connected devices, and then 5 years later, it'll be 50 billion connected devices. And that just means that the 5 years or 7 years are totally connected.
So you two are talking about the same thing. You're saying lots of new sensors, lots of new, everything that can be electronic put into a phone will be put into a phone. And you're saying all those things will now be connected up and providing, what was it, contextual awareness. All right? Okay. Anybody else? 5 years from now?
I think there's all of these things are really, really happening, but there's two ways that they're manifesting themselves. I think one of those, and I feel it personally and I see it around me, is that over time, my phone is becoming more me. That as it's got the various sensors, my personal details, my payment, and everything else. And so I think this is one of the trends, is that certainly it's going to make very important things like security and robustness, as well as the phone becoming increasingly something that is so much of my life in it that it becomes sort of an inseparable part of who I am, even to my identity. The second I see is that when we're talking about either form or form factor or where the phone goes, that we can't, I think you won't be able to divide that up from the product or the service that it's part of. So as an example of that, I would take Scoot Networks. I don't know how many people out here are familiar with Scoot Networks. It's beta up in the city right now, where you've got lots and lots of electric scooters from China. They're just spread across the streets. You bring your Android or your iPhone on it. You plug it onto the scooter. It knows who you are. It's got your validation, your currency. It brings up the manuals, the directions, the turn-by-turn directions, and you get on it and go. So it's really an irreducible part of this scooter product as well. So I'd see those as the two main things.
Maybe I can make one. Even though I jumped the gun on my first time around, I'll go last as a result. I guess I agree with most of what's been said here, and I would add a couple other comments. If you want to see the future, I think you start with where does all technology lead? And one fundamental that I've noticed in my career, I've only been in for 25 years, but has been that almost all resources in technology get applied toward convenience, toward making things easier to do. And if you look at today, the march away from point-and-shoot cameras that's been talked about here towards cell phones, the single biggest reason for that isn't because the camera is better on a phone. It's because it's easier to share it on Facebook or Instagram. I think someone mentioned Instagram earlier. My wife, who's not a technophile, the reason she pulls out her phone to take a picture instead of her camera is because she wants to instantly get it up onto Facebook without having to think about it or figure out how to do that. The link is already there, the share button is already there, it's already ready to go. So where does that go in the future? I think if you just unravel some of the basic things we try to accomplish today and figure out how you could make that more convenient, and that's what you'll see in the future. And I agree with the comment that there's going to be a lot more devices or not such a clear divide between a physical cell phone device and other forms of sensors or wearable components that might come into play. And the last thing I would say is that you'll start to see a blurring of the line between cloud computing and device computing as over the next 5 years. It won't even matter so much which one you're doing.
Okay, so let me see if I can connect those two. We have a device that is primarily something for communication today, and to some degree, computation, becoming a key piece of sort of just convenience for living, right? Like you kept talking about convenience, you're talking about billing on phones. I agree with what you said, David, very strongly, is that this will become our identity, and it will become essentially our passport to the cloud, right? It will connect up. This is how we will interface with information going forward. All right. So if that's the future we're heading to, what are the big constraints we see today? What's sort of preventing us from being there already?
Well, I'd say probably the biggest are, as this happens, then security and robustness become really overwhelmingly important in order to get to this environment where the local and the cloud are integrated. So today, one reason I still will put a lot of things locally, which by the way is generationally different from what my kids do, is that I know that there's times when either the service provider decides to unilaterally change the terms, remove things, or it goes down when I need it. And as I become more and more dependent on this, I'm going to become less and less able and willing to suffer any outages. And since more and more of my personal information is on this, I also can afford no security breaches.
Okay. Security is a good one. Great.
I think of two big obstacles. Number one, and this is the biggest obstacle in the entire industry, is software development. If you think about providing all these capabilities, the hard part is actually, and I'm a hardware guy, so I think I can say this, right? The hard part is actually developing the software that makes everything work together, that makes all those capabilities awesome and convenient and easy to use. And the other thing is power, because the form factors are limited by how much power in the device is burned. And so the better efficiency at perf per watt, the more likely things can get smaller. The device itself can disappear while its use becomes more apparent than ever. So those are the two big things I see.
So software and power.
Yeah.
Software seems like something we can work on. Do you think there's any solution for power?
I do. I think, I look at the 8 years since I've been in mobile, and 8 years ago, a phone call was 5 watts. And a phone call today is much higher performance, and it's less than a watt. And I think that's one of the hardest things to improve upon, because there's so much analog in there, right? You got real RF, you got real voice and amplifiers and all those things.
Multiple antennas.
Multiple antennas. You can't really get rid of the amount of power you're injecting into the air very easily, although you can enhance it. But all the other forms of work that's being done in the system have improved probably more like 20-fold since then, the amount of work you could get done, or maybe a lot more than 20-fold. But it involves implementing algorithms, and with the amount of silicon that you can pump out now, 1 billion, 10 billion transistors, that allows you to customize processors so that you can do things in the most efficient way.
Ben, what's your view on this? Do you feel software is a big hindrance still, and it's something that needs to be improved upon?
Absolutely. Back to your question about constraints, I do have a very specific concerns on the constraints as a handset OEM companies integrating hardware and software together. So as we work with almost all our partners and suppliers, when I drive up and down south and north of 101, I see a lot of our partners, alongside Silicon Valley companies, as well as Qualcomm and San Diego. So we had a lot of partners in the semiconductor industry. It's just the speed of silicon-level innovations and also the speed of manufacturers contradicts really the speed of internet developments. Lei Jun talked about this development model where we adopted at the very first day of our startups, where we launch MIUI, the software ROM, every week, Friday, 5 p.m. New build get put out. You download the ROM, you flash on your OS. Next week, we collected a bunch of feedbacks. We put out a new build with new features and new bug fixes. And we have been doing that for the last 110 weeks. And that's super fast speed, improving and all those. But turn around when we start working on hardware design and with the silicon companies, it takes long time. Average lead time from our suppliers, I think 8 to 12 weeks. Mike, am I getting it right? 8 to 12 weeks. What does that mean? In internet, there is no way that you can predict anything, 8 to 12 weeks from today. Things change so fast. And in China, this is even faster. Things happen next day. Not sure if you guys pay attention to, some of the e-commerce price war, some of the Weibo phenomena. It only usually measured by hours and days. So for us to really understand the manufacturing process, the times it takes to produce every single chipset, it's hard. So I'm actually urging all of our suppliers to work hard to see if we can speed up the manufacturing process. Of course, during this process, we turn around and try to understand how the manufacturers, the times it takes, the efforts it takes to really speed those things up. So the constraints of innovation speed, manufacturing speed, versus the development of the software and the internet speed, it's something that clash, and we need to figure out a way to really work together.
Okay. Any of the chip vendors want to speak up for themselves?
Well, I would just add that I think that the consumer, the security is connected to the privacy. And so there's an education that's underway, but still probably in its infancy for people to understand that, you know, if I'm under total choice and control of what I want to share with the device, and I have confidence in that, and we can educate people that that is the case, that they'd be then willing to, you know, allow the device to be more of me and to be increasingly me, and then to create those conveniences. Historically, people will give up personal information for convenience, and so the next wave of that is just beginning now.
And I would say I agree with Ben. I think it's right. We do need to increase the pace of innovation in any kind of a churning market like we have here with mobile devices. It's the biggest, most important churning market. And by churning, I mean it's churning out new technology, right? You have to move fast, and it's going to favor those who do. So I totally agree.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the thing is like we are seeing adoption of high-performance device rapidly. Maybe 10 years ago, you know, I used a phone for like 3-4 years. I don't even have the desire to change it. You know, there's nothing new. And nowadays, you know, with Apple coming out every new models, Xiaomi also doing new models every year. You know, people are starting to, you know, replacing their handsets every year. And you know, the last year's model, it was a great model, and now this year, you look at the models that we have last year, it's outdated. You know, you want to replace your phone. And the phone price is dropping so fast that the barrier, the entry barrier of replacing a phone becoming, you know, really low. You know, 2,000 RMB, it's about $230 US, non-subsidized, right? It's not something that you would think for a long time. You say, hey, a new device comes out, I'm going to use it. So just the replacement, the innovation speed, you know, it's getting rapidly faster. And we do need to work with the silicon, you know, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, and other companies together to really speed up the innovation speed.
Okay, so I'm gonna take a little bit of a detour now. I wanna poll the audience because we're gonna talk a little bit about hardware now. Can you raise your hand if you have an iPhone? Is that about half? Okay. Who has an Android phone? A little bit less. Usually it's equal. Who has a BlackBerry? Wow, that's the lowest I've ever seen in a crowd this size. All right. Who has a Windows phone? Okay, lower your hand if you work for Microsoft or Nokia. Okay.
There was one.
There's one. Yeah. Okay. There's another one. Does anybody have a? All right. So anybody have a Xiaomi phone?
I got two hands.
So I just want to. I want to point out. I think there's like 2 or 3 people. I mean, Xiaomi outnumbers Windows Phone. Right, and you can't even buy them in the U.S.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have this thesis that hardware is just becoming a really rough business to be in. Right, it's not that complicated a thesis. Value is now in software. Do any of you think there's new form factors, new hardware designs still to come, or 5 years from now, are we all going to be carrying around little black bricks?
My own opinion is, from what I mentioned before, is I see increasingly the phone becoming only one part of a larger product, whether you're plugging it into exercise equipment or scooters or other things like that. So I think that maybe the question, at least in my mind, is one more of the larger products and services and sort of expanding our view of what we think is the product.
Oh, I agree. I think we all agree that the future is about software and services platforms that ride on top of the device, but we'll still need to carry a device with us. Does that mean there's no value left in the device?
I think the value in the device will still be there, but I think it'll be software. In fact, on the constraint side, one we didn't mention, and I come from the software background, so it's good we're sitting next to each other, is to worry about the same thing playing out that happened on the PC, which is the hardware prices collapsed, but the software prices didn't. So if I look on a smartphone or a device and I see that I got to pay, you know, $10 or $20 for H.264 licensing plus HDCP licensing plus something from Microsoft and something from Oracle and something from Apple, that I could see BOM costs on the software being $40 or $50 per device, and I think that's a major concern.
Okay.
I'm a hardware guy, so I guess I'll make a comment too. I think there's a couple different things. Number one, you asked what form factor is going to be important. I actually think this sounds kind of dumb, but I think it doesn't matter is the answer to that. Why do we have this form factor? Because it fits in your pocket I mean, it's not because I'm in love with this shape, right? It's not that I like rounded, cornered, rectangular things, right? It's what you can fit. It's what you can fit in your pocket, what you can carry reasonably, carry with you. As the innovations come about that make it easier to carry something or bring it with you, the form factors will change, but the total size isn't going to grow by much or maybe it's even going to shrink, right? It's going to become easier to carry with you because, again, it all goes back to convenience. Then the other question is hardware is tanking. Well, I come from an industry where the prices of PCs have steadily dropped over the last 20 years, and yet the ASP of products coming from NVIDIA have simply gone up from $10 to $1,000 over the last 20 years. And I attribute that to adding value. And so hardware generally gets paid to do something new, to innovate, to do what Ben has asked for, right? To make something new and better. And I think there's plenty of room to enhance the experience over the next 5-10 years in mobile computing, in cloud computing, in every form of life enhancement that could be done, both in hardware and in software.
I would say that for me personally, each device does keep getting bigger. And then the end game for that is the size of the pocket. Like, I'll keep going as big as it will fit in my pocket, but these last rounds of 5.3 inch and bigger have reached a tipping point in that they no longer fit in the cup holder in your car. And so as a result,
Get a new car.
you need a big gulp sized cup holder. And then I think that there's some interesting things to forecast around splitting the components up. So is the new display on my glasses? Is the is the speaker in my ear? Is the processor just somewhere that's in my backpack or something? So it could be an interesting way of integrating it as well.
Okay. So, all right, let me ask that then. 5 years out, will the phone be in my glasses?
The display.
The display.
The display.
And then we'll just have 5 years from now. You think we'll have that?
I think we will, yeah.
Okay. Google Glasses type.
So it's already started, sure.
At commercial prices, retail prices.
I'll leave that to people that can better estimate.
5 years is actually not very far.
It's not that far, but if you can already sort of buy them today.
It's interesting because the first demo I had of a wearable micro display was 20 years ago, and it looked pretty darn good. I walked into a lab, they put the glasses on, it was 10 by 7, and back then 10 by 7 was reasonably high resolution even on a PC. It looked fantastic. The challenge is, there's a few challenges with it, but the concept is clearly something we want, right? We want to make it easier to have your display with you, and you want to make it easier to augment the things around you. So it certainly makes sense that I would like to be able to wear it on my glasses. And I think 5 years is right about the point where maybe it's going to be feasible, low enough power to where it's not going to weigh down your nose because it's sitting on your face.
So, all right, so let me ask a more practical question. The device, the future we're talking about, we've talked a lot about software services, converged platforms, and the cloud. How much of the mobile future, 5 years from today, will be about processing done locally, and how much of it will be in the cloud? Right? And I know you're going to want to say, oh, both matter, but there is an important distinction about how much processing power do we need in our pockets versus how much is going to go in the cloud.
Can I take the first crack at that?
Please.
NVIDIA is working on both sides of that, and so I have some pretty strong opinions about it. In the end, there's a fundamental technical decision that has to be made, and that is, does something need to happen in less than a tenth of a second? Or does something need to happen within a few seconds? Most things I do on the internet today happen within a few seconds. If I'm looking for tickets to get to this show, that's a few seconds. I start to get really irritated if it's 10 seconds for the website to come up that says, I want tickets to this convention. That can happen on the cloud, right? Anything that's 10 seconds going to 1 second can all happen in the cloud. A tenth of a second, that's reacting to something real time. A ball is thrown at you and you need to catch it. That doesn't have time for the decision to go up to the cloud and back, no matter how much you optimize it. The speed of light will become the limiting factor in that. And so anything that needs to be highly interactive, tenths of a second, less than a tenth of a second, milliseconds, has to happen locally. And that's the forced dividing line. Everything else is just convenience. And if everything else could go either way, and it ought to go either way, we oughtn't to care which way it goes. We ought to just put it wherever it's most efficient.
I would just layer one thing on that, which is also robustness. Though, if I have something that my life depends on, then I need to get my cloud up to a certain level of, I hate to use the term, but nines before I can do that. But that's the only other thing I would add to that.
That's a good point.
And also graceful failure connected to robustness.
Okay, so I just realized we've run out of time, so I'm going to do a quick speed round here. Give me one feature that you think is the most science fiction-y that will actually be in phones 5 years from now. Be as imaginative as possible. What would you like to see?
My lawyer's with me everywhere I go.
Your what?
My lawyer.
And you want that?
I'm going to need it.
Okay. David?
I'll just throw something way out there, and if I look at interfaces, would be search becoming so connected that we can have effectively prosthetic memory because we don't even know what we've searched for versus what's in our brain.
That's how I feel most days.
That's pretty close to what I was going to say. I was going to say something that tells me as I'm walking up to you, remember, this is Jonathan, right? Because I'm bad with names. I recognize faces, but I'm pretty sure that that'll all be solved in the next 5 years.
Okay. Ben?
I once saw a transparent, 100% transparent display. So I love to see a purely transparent phones that I can actually see through my display, and behind my phones, 100% transparent. So it's probably not going to take 5 years for that to come true. But I would love to see one of those devices.
You think it's going to take more or less?
Probably going to take less. Actually, I saw a couple of demos in one of the suppliers' demo room. So hopefully it would happen sooner.
So Xiaomi version 7.
I hope we could be one of the OEMs to produce those. Yes, we're working hard. Thank you.
Okay. I think that's it. We're out of time. I want to thank you all for coming up, and it was great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.